Art isn't simply a drawing using different colored paint or creating sculptures for enjoyment. There is a much deeper meaning and purpose rooted behind it. Art is described as an expression of our thoughts, emotions, intuitions, and desires, but it is even more personal than that. It's about sharing the way we experience the world, which for many is an extension of personality. Each aspect of the painting represents or symbolizes something we can all interpret in our own ways. The artists are the experts in capturing our interpretations and emotions in ways our words cannot describe, creating art that speaks and resonates with audiences beyond the artist himself. During my visit to the Getty Museum, two art pieces stood out. One, Irises by Vincent van Gogh, an 1889 piece, and Jean Spring by Edward Manet, 1881. Born on March 30th, 1853, Vincent van Gogh was an exceptional Dutch artist. He was considered a post-impressionist as his paintings often included the most intricate brushwork, vibrant colors, and powerful messages of the time. Although he only painted for 10 years, his art became extremely popular after his death in 1890. Vincent van Gogh was said to be a mad genius. Why? This is because in 1888 he fell mentally ill, going through a series of events causing him to act out, cut off his own ear, and eventually be admitted into a mental asylum. He was filled with uncertainty, and oftentimes he was utterly confused and had no idea what he was saying or doing. One of his well-known art pieces, called Irises, an 1889 piece, was inspired by the asylum's garden. The painting is filled with irises, colored in a vibrant purple with its bluish-green stems, and behind orange flowers, with the brown soil popping through and elevating the scenery. According to the Getty Museum, each one of Van Gogh's irises is unique. Upon my glance, it was evident that these flowers were swaying in different directions. His use of wavy, twisting, and curling lines creates the movement caught in the painting. The painting covers all the space of the canvas and is filled with flowers and is very eye-catching. The symmetry allows for a fair representation of all the elements or objects shown in the image. Each region has its own characteristics, shapes, and spots, and are all luminous. Unlike the Impressionist flower pieces, these are carefully studied for their shape and individualized. These flowers seem to depict a sense of calm, as if the garden breeze can be felt through the image. This was Van Gogh's first painting after being admitted to the asylum, and when comparing it to his later paintings, we can observe that this painting reflected his current mood and mental state. He wanted isolation, and during this isolation he indulged in his art. His environment supported his desire to paint and create, and it showed his creativity and skills despite his attacks. It illustrates that art is therapeutic and can be used to calm one's mental state. Through this observation, we can confidently interpret this art piece as life without tragedy. Van Gogh's style of painting is culturally significant because it focuses on the mental and emotional core of the irises instead of realism. His art challenged the conventional norms of artists, inspiring many artists to create art based on their personal emotions and expressions. This style was called post-impressionism, as artists began exploring beyond impressionism. The second art piece I saw was by Edward Manet. Manet was born on January 23, 1832, in Paris, France. This artist was similar to Van Gogh in the sense of defying traditional styles. His style of painting included layering paints and translucent glazes, rather than the typical polished surface paintings. Manet was inspired by artist Diego Velázquez, whose work demonstrated bold brushwork. His art was criticized heavily, as his paintings were often naked subjects, which was uncommon at the time. Manet focused on modern subject matter, street scenes, bar life, and backhanded versions of famous art icons, coupled with his unconventional paint handling. One of his well-known paintings, called Jean Spring, an 1881 piece, shows a chic young woman dressed in a floral gown holding a parasol leaning onto her shoulder. Face to the side, she is staring into the distance, as she seems to be deep into thought. The canvas has a wide range of colors, all vibrant. Her white gown with blue floral prints, her yellow gloves matching with the light parasol, and her dark brunette hair peeking from underneath her hat. The background is filled with green plants, as though she strolls through a garden. This art piece is widely known for showing Manet's skillful use of brushwork, thin floral patches to smooth skin on the model, and the more textured brushwork for the background. The rough textures and lines in the background allow the image to replicate movement alongside her pose with the parasol. Manet's model was Janine Dermarcy, a Parisian actress posing as the embodiment of spring. This portrait debuted at the last major public exhibition of Manet's life, the Paris Saloon of 1882. His use of bright colors strikes the feeling of a warm spring season, truly evoking these emotions through a painting. According to the Getty Museum, when Manet was creating this portrait, he was well educated and interested in the latest fashion trends and artistic traditions. His inspiration for the design of the dress came from scouring dressmakers' and milliners' shops. This portrait symbolizes the beauty of women alongside the beauty of nature, as the two often go hand in hand. Through this personification of spring, he created a light, young, and beautiful painting, which was very different than his usual paintings, which often included more sexual subjects. Manet was ironically easily able to reflect the beauties of life and nature right before his passing in 1883. Although art is perceived as drawings, images for enjoyment, each piece ever made holds much deeper meanings. They reflect on our emotions, thoughts, and reflection of who we are as people. These two great artists, Vincent van Gogh and Edward Manet, beautifully incorporated their emotions and reflections of life by creating amazing light and vibrant floral paintings. Even though they are different, they both seem to reflect the beauties of life we experience and see daily.